Welcome, fellow KISS fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the what the hell?
Surprise, surprise!
Surprise, surprise! Welcome, fellow KISS fans. Welcome to It's All For You Demons, celebrating the fun of being a KISS fan. And welcome, Dan, to It's All For You
I'm
Demons.
here, fellas and ladies.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go take a long, hot, steamy bath with just enough water to barely cover my perky bosom.
And tonight, since it's Dan's first episode, I thought we would kick off tonight kind of doing a get to know Dan episode. Dan's going to talk your top 5 KISS records, but first, let's go into your KISSTORY.
My history would start probably 77, 78. I'm not sure how I discovered them one day. Back then, a lot of people say, is KISS what made you want to become a rock star or be in a rock band? I can honestly say no, because I did not see them as musicians. I saw them as superheroes. I saw them next to Spider-Man. I saw them next to the X-Men. But I'd say 77, 78, the first album I got was Gene's solo album, and that was a lot of begging to get from my parents. And then I believe I got started with the solo albums, and then I believe I got Alive, went back down to Alive 2. Dynasty would have been the first spanking brand new album I got, and by then I was full bore in I Was Made for Loving You, changed my life.
Changed a lot of lives.
I totally remember watching KISS Meets the Phantom of the Park. My mother was one of those Knights in Satan's Service believers, so it was almost like a dirty secret when I changed the channel to watch Phantom of the Park. I believe I can recall missing parts of Phantom of the Park because my mom would enter the room and, oh, I'm watching MASH. So when Phantom of the Park came out on VHS, I had rented it. It seemed like such a long time from when I liked KISS, and to see that again, it was already nostalgia for me. Something just boiled up in me, and it turned me back into a KISS fan. And then I rented KISS Exposed, and when I saw the I Love It Loud footage from Rio, I remember just having goosebumps thinking, oh my God, I remember all this.
Now there's a couple things I always loved, because you introduced me to KISS. I had no idea of KISS, so a lot of your history I kind of lived vicariously through you. And there's a couple things I loved that you told me when we were young that just ignited my fandom. One being your yellow Love Gun shirt you wore to Six Flags.
Yes. That would have been summer of 1980. Family went to Six Flags. That was when everybody would wear iron-on t-shirts. I went to the local mall, got the Love Gun thing. I had my name printed on the back in big puffy letters, Danny. I remember getting on the log flume ride and the lady going, well, hey, Danny. I'm like, how's she know my name? I'm like, fast forward 30 years later, you made me a reproduction of that shirt, name and all, which I gladly have now.
That, to me, that is the magic of childhood pop culture. That iron-on t-shirt shop in the mall. And just to think that in 1980, Love Gun iron-ons were not old at that point. They were still fairly new. Mm-hmm. Not like anyone made fun of you for, oh, geez, you still like KISS. I mean, KISS was still big enough. Audience was younger, but still big enough that a kid's gonna buy a shirt.
Oh, yes.
Wear that loud and proud at Six Flags.
And I think being there with that shirt on with Six Flags forever cemented my love of Phantom of the Park as well.
Oh yeah. I still, every time I go to an amusement park during the summer, Worlds of Fun, I'm in constant Phantom of the Park land.
The constant quotes we would do at Worlds of Fun.
Oh yeah.
Say I'm still in the park.
KISS, where are you? Yeah. So who's your favorite member now?
Oh, Gene Simmons in so many different ways.
Okay, so who was your favorite member in the 70s?
When I got into KISS, it was all Paul Stanley. As I said, I really thought they were superheroes, and the fact that he can make lasers come out of his eye, being a big Star Wars fan, that all kind of gelled together. I remember Halloween 79, having a pump jack-o'-lantern contest in 4th grade, and I made Paul Stanley, didn't win, but yeah, Paul was my guy.
Did you put the star on the right eye?
I believe so.
But it's weird to think that Paul Stanley may have been a lot of kids' favorite that were discovering the band at Phantom of the Park time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about that movie, the two people with superpowers, besides Ace can teleport, Gene blowing fire and Paul's laser eye, that is comic book lore at that time. So if you were a kid, really, Paul and Gene would be your two bets on these are going to be my favorite.
Right. You mentioned Ace. I would have saw Phantom of the Park when I was 8 years old, and I could remember Ace going, ah! Fast forward to like 1986, 87. I had not seen it since then when it came on VHS. I actually thought, did I dream that Ace would go, ah! Then popped it in. I'm like, there it is.
This isn't funny.
So when you grew out of Kiss and into Duran Duran, the MTV era, the pop music era, did you ever encounter Kiss? Like in record stores, in the public, in magazines?
About 83, I got out of the pop stuff. Thanks to Quiet Riot, Mental Health, it turned me back to rock, paying attention to them, Motley Crue, things like that. So then I lumped Kiss with all those people. And so when they came out with Lick It Up, I was only vaguely interested in seeing them without makeup. Saw the album at Walmart, like, oh, there it is. Moving on.
That's crazy. That's weird to think that a kid would be so into it in the 70s, then when the makeup comes off. So after you got me into Kiss, we both went down this fandom road with Brett, our neighbor. Lo and behold, the band's gonna come to our hometown, St. Joseph, Missouri, of all places, for the Revenge Tour. Now, previously that summer, we had gone to see our first tribute band. They were called KISST. And there was a guy in there selling airbrush shirts. You had previously bought an airbrush shirt on vacation.
Yes, in Virginia, 1991, I had bought a Gene Simmons airbrush shirt.
So you had your Gene airbrush shirt. And so it would only be logical that I buy a Paul Stanley airbrush shirt, which I bought at that tribute show. Fast forward to us seeing Revenge. Did we plan on taking off our shirts and holding them up prior to the show?
I don't think so. I think it was written in the stars.
Yeah. So you did it first, right?
Written in Paul's eye.
You did it first.
Yes.
So,
but you got noticed first.
Okay. Paul pointed at my shirt. Danny took off his shirt, held it up, threw it up. Gene actually put your shirt on his head. And then, did he throw your shirt off to the side of the stage?
I believe so. He put it on his head, danced. Me and you both got our tits out for 3,000 people to see.
And then Paul motioned for me to throw my shirt up, and he kept my shirt on his microphone stand for the entire show, then threw it off to the side.
Only to make a very famous appearance a year later.
In Confidential, yes. That was still one of the craziest fun nights ever.
Yes.
Back then, when a VHS would be released, we would buy it and just gather in my basement or Brett's basement. And Confidential night, we happened to be in my basement. And I just remember that scene coming on. And I just remember yelling, shut up. Because, like, everyone was screaming.
Yeah.
And I was, like, just yelling, like, shut up,
We
shut
thought
up.
maybe it would make a tiny appearance because it made it in the I Love It Loud live video that we saw maybe a month prior.
Mm-hmm.
But for that to happen and for him to actually talk about it, all of a sudden we both had so much energy. It's like, what do we do with this energy? Because holy shit, is this really happening?
Got this really cool shirt. I looked out in the audience one night and I saw this guy with my face as big as this shirt in makeup. And I wore it for I don't know how many shows. I mean, it was one of my favorite shirts. I like getting that kind of stuff out of the audience, so it was just very cool.
And it's still one of those moments that I watch and just gives me goosebumps.
Almost still doesn't seem real.
No, not at all. It was just a magical Kiss moment, and I think for me, cemented like we were doing something right. We were on this road to Kiss fandom for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Not to get all woo-woo, but if anybody believes in the law of attraction or what you think about, you bring about, this is living proof right here.
Living proof.
That was a multiple band.
Fast forward just a few years later to the convention era.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the Kiss convention was coming to St. Louis, which is 5 hours from our home.
$100 in 1995 seemed like a hell of a lot of money.
And I bowed out. I was like, that's too much money. I can't spend $100. You and Brett went to the 95 convention.
Yes. Yep. We got there a day early, checked in our hotel because we flew down there. I turn around, I see mounds of blue-black hair over in the restaurant area. And I'm like, oh my God. And so we hung out, waited for them to leave. I remember hearing that they ate swordfish. And Paul comes down first. I turned into Rick when Gene walked towards you with your bomb pop thing. Oh! And didn't say anything but hi, Paul. He didn't seem like he really wanted to be bothered. But by this time, I'm a total Gene guy. He came, took a sharp left where we were. I'm like, oh my God, here's my moment. And I had a picture, the one and only picture of me wearing that airbrush shirt. I showed it to him. I said, do you happen to remember this shirt? And he went, yes, I do. And I honestly thought he was just being nice to not disappoint me. Then he confirmed it by saying, Paul was sick that night. I had to sing Heaven's on Fire. Was this St. Joseph? And I'm like, yes, sir, it was.
That is crazy. Like, I've always heard Gene has like this memory, like he can meet you and then like years later remember like what you talked about. That is absolutely crazy that he remembers that show, everything about it.
As much as shit as he gets for being about the money, and I think he does truly care.
Yes. And after the convention, I think I kind of went into a Kiss coma. You saw Psycho Circus in LA.
Yep.
Dodger Stadium.
Dodger Stadium. I still have the shirt.
That's another huge show I missed out on. I really did go into like a sleeping under the rock era. Pretty much didn't go to a Kiss show until Sonic Boom with you. I still love Monster. I still love Sonic Boom. And I think that kind of led to our fandom today.
And plus, with pop culture at the time being such a shit sandwich, it just makes you embrace what you love even more.
Oh,
because
totally.
there's nothing really out there to go grab.
Speaking of what you love, I want to hear your top 5 Kiss records. 5 being the least favorite, 1 being the all-time favorite.
It's hard to do this because it's kind of like picking your favorite kid. You love them all. If I had to pick number 5, just happened to have it in my hand. I'm gonna go Lick It Up. And to this day, when people say Kiss sucks, it's for kids, listen to this motherfucker right here. Holds up with anything that was released in the 80s from any band. I lean more towards Gene songs. I mean, Young and Wasted, Fits Like a Glove, and On the Eighth Day. They're anthems. This is an anthem album. To me, it doesn't sound dated except for maybe the drum production. I don't really fast forward on any songs on this album. They sound almost pissed off on this album, and I really like it.
And to me, Gene on Lick It Up is still a demon persona.
Absolutely. He really does sound angry and aggressive. He's aggressive on this album.
And just to piggyback on Dan's top 5, I won't go into any detail, but my number 5 would be Hot in the Shade. I listen to this album and I totally think, like, this is our soundtrack. I think of Friday nights, your Camaro, renting a VHS, and I think of Burger King a lot. I don't know why.
Because when I bought it on cassette tape, because we bought it at a record warehouse and then we'd be in the Burger King parking lot, eat a burger, listen to it in my car.
Boom.
Number 4. Again, hard picks. But if I had to pick the number 4, it's going to be Bam, debut album. It's the debut album. It's what started everything. Every song on here is still a classic. It's just when I think of New York, having been to New York a few times, and I think of Kiss, this is the album I think of. Just raw, street, ready to take on the world. Contains Deuce, which is one of the songs. If someone says, play a Kiss song for me, that might be the song I'll play. You gotta add the debut in there somewhere.
And my number 4 is also the debut record.
My number 3, I'm going to go with Love Gun. Perhaps my favorite album cover of all time, for one thing. It just seems to hit all the right spots. This is when by now they are the biggest band in the world. It's just fun. This is the one I kind of think of Phantom of the Park with this one, along with Alive 2. Fun is what I think of with this album. Like the merch angle with the Love Gun and everything. it just, look, it's making me smile.
Yes. I always think Destroyer is the classic record. Rock and Roll Over is the rock record. Love Gun is the fun record.
Good call.
And my number 3 is the Gene Simmons solo album. The best solo album of the bunch. And emotionally, this is my dream guide. This is the album I go to when I want to dream big, when I want to do something with my life other than sit in a cubicle. It's this album and this man that helped me dream that dream.
Amen, Johnson. I'm going to go with Dynasty. I can remember buying this at Sears. I know we've touched on it before. I believe I bought it in the winter. This is like our winter album. I love it. It's, like I said, I was made for loving you. I drove my sister crazy with that song. Same with Hard Times, because that was the B-side on the 45. Charisma is in one of my top 5 songs. Magic Touch, that's songwriting perfection. 2000 Man. Didn't know it was a cover back then, and I love the album cover. The fact that it came with that great poster didn't hurt.
Did you hang that poster up back then?
I think I did. I don't know how long it lasted up there before Mom's like, no, let's take that out.
And my number 2 would be Rock and Roll Over. The all-time greatest Kiss record ever has to be number 2 for me because
Everything under.
Is probably no shocker, Gene Simmons. Now, if someone were to say, play Kiss for me, I would not play this album. It doesn't sound like a Kiss album. But when you're a Kiss fan and you're starting to have your head in the clouds and you're starting to dreaming of bigger things, Rick said it earlier, this is the album if you understand where Gene comes from. His Beatles influences definitely come in through here. This was the album that pretty much started all the trouble at my house. I specifically remember playing Living in Sin one time. It's playing. All of a sudden I hear, I'm living in sin at the... My mom took it off, said, you are not playing that song in this house. But I used to stare at this album cover just for hours. And I believe I had it with Gene's face on the album, and I just watch his head spin over, just in a trance. Still am to this day.
Now, real quick, just on that, the other day I was playing the solo albums, and I was kind of entranced by a solo album cover myself. Of the 4, cover-wise, which one is your favorite cover?
Man, they're all so great. Again, like picking one. I'm probably just going to go with Gene, but Paul's is right there. I kind of like the color purple anyway, not the movie.
I think it pisses God off if you walk by the color purple. Don't notice it.
You take these album covers for granted sometimes, but man, they're just magical and works of art.
Mine, I think, I would honestly pick Peter. There's something I love about the cross, the bandolero, green. That lime green. It's just magical to me, and every time I stare at it, I kind of go off into a different, kind of fantasy land, and you're a part of something. I know this sounds completely weird and strange, but just staring at it, listening to Kiss the Girl Goodbye, you just kind of become a part of the album. Right? It's magical.
Fun fact, because I know a lot of you guys are old heads like me, grew up on the show Good Times. There's one episode where they're having a party, and there is a dude wearing the Peter Criss solo album shirt in the background.
Amen.
Comment if you've ever seen that.
And number 1 for me, no secret, Dynasty, the greatest disco rock record to exist.
KISSTORY.
And there you have a little backstory of Dan, a little KISSTORY, a little top 5. Thank you for coming down here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of these, because we live far away from each other now. We live in 2 different cities. I started this channel, especially having my videos post on Friday nights, because Friday nights was when we would hang out. Friday, Saturday night, VHS, Mexican food, Taco Bell.
And no girls.
Where are they? think they're talking about us.
Horror movies and Kiss. And so that is what I wanted Friday nights to be. And so I kind of started these videos in a way. This is me hanging out with Dan not being here. So I thank you for being here. It's going to be a hell of a lot of fun in 2024. And
speaking of horror movies, of course they always had a lot of gratuitous nudity and sex scenes. Tell them about your dusty trails.
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
We'll leave that for another day. Thank you for hanging with us tonight, waxing a little rock and roll nostalgia with Dan here in the Wax Night House. Be good to your babies. Spay, neuter, microchip. There she is laying on top of Dan. We will talk to you soon. I'm gonna have arches, but only you'll know. Welcome, fellow Kiss fans. Welcome to right after I say celebrating the